All right, today we're diving into something that's literally on your plate every single day, even if you don't realize it. We're talking about plant breeding, specifically two powerhouse techniques, synthetic and composite varieties. Let's break it down.
So here's the big question, right? How are we possibly going to feed everyone on this planet? The population is booming, and we need more and more food. Well, a huge piece of that puzzle is making our crops smarter, stronger, and that's exactly what plant breeding is all about. It's this super high-stakes game of genetics where the grand prize is, feeding the world.
Okay, so here's what we've got on tap. We'll kick things off with why this matters so much: feeding the future. Then we'll get into the two main schools of thought here. We'll break down composites and synthetics, look at a really interesting story about how the method matters, and wrap up with the big decision breeders always have to make.
All right, Section 1, feeding the future. So why is this such a big deal? I mean, at its core, modern agriculture has this massive challenge. We need to grow more food, and not just more, but more reliably, often in places where the weather is just all over the place.
Think about what a plant breeder is dreaming of. They're not just looking for a plant that gives a huge harvest one time. No, they need high and consistent yields year after year. And on top of that, these plants need to be tough, right? They've got to fight off pests and diseases on their own. And they need to handle whatever the environment throws at them, like a brutal drought or soil that's too salty. It is a huge checklist.
And look, this isn't just some academic exercise. This stuff has literally changed the world. This quote from Borlaug gets right to it. These techniques were absolutely central to the Green Revolution. I mean, we're talking about a massive leap in how much food the world could produce, pulling us back from the brink of major food shortages. It's no exaggeration to say this science has saved millions of lives.
Okay, on to our next section, two breeding philosophies. So to tackle all those challenges we just talked about, breeders came up with two really different ways of thinking about it. They're both shooting for the same goal, better crops, but how they get there, totally different paths. I love this analogy because it just clicks. Let's start with composite varieties. Think of them like a community potluck. Everyone brings their best dish. You get a ton of variety, right? The whole point is to have a big, diverse mix. That genetic diversity is what makes the crop resilient and able to adapt. Now, flip that. Synthetic varieties are like a chef's fancy tasting menu. Every single ingredient is painstakingly chosen and perfectly paired to create one specific, amazing result. Here, the goal is all about performance and yield, squeezing out every bit of what we call hybrid vigor.
So let's unpack that a little more. What exactly is a composite variety? Basically, you take a whole bunch of different parent plants, and the key word here is diverse, and you let them mix and mingle, cross-pollinate. Then, over a few generations, you, or even nature itself, just picks the winners. You do a mass selection. This keeps the population strong, but also keeps that all-important broad genetic base. And synthetic? Well, that's a whole different ballgame. It is way more controlled. You start with just a few hand-picked elite parent lines, and these aren't just any plants. They are specifically chosen for what breeders call their combining ability. That's a fancy way of saying they're proven to make amazing offspring when crossed. The entire process is engineered to get that massive performance boost, that hybrid vigor or heterosis.
All right, let's dive deeper into composites. Their whole philosophy is strength in diversity. Their superpower, if you will, is that deep genetic pool that lets them handle whatever life throws at them. So how do you actually make one? Well, first, you gather your team, a whole bunch of diverse parent plants that each have something good to offer. Step 2, you let them cross-pollinate, either naturally or with a little human help. The third step is really the key. You just let the new mixed population grow for several generations, and you keep selecting the strongest ones. It's a patient process of monitoring and tweaking to make sure the good stuff sticks around.
Okay, let's flip the script and talk synthetics. With these, it's all about engineering performance. We're talking about designing a crop for one thing: massive yields.
And the process here is, wow, a lot more strict. First, you have to find that small club of elite parents, the ones with that killer combining ability. Then, you do controlled crosses, in every single possible combination. You're basically speed dating plants to find the absolute perfect match. After that, you only take the seeds from the best of the best, the top-performing kids. And it's not a one-and-done thing. You have to keep reevaluating and reselecting to keep that elite performance going.
So, this is where it all comes together. Let's look at the trade-offs. On the composite side, your big win is that genetic diversity. That means they're resilient, they can handle stress, and they're perfect for farmers who don't have a ton of resources. The downside?
the yield probably won't break any records. Now look at synthetics. Their advantage is pure power, huge yield potential thanks to that hybrid vigor. They're also super uniform, which is great for big, modern farms, but that uniformity is their Achilles heel. A new disease could wipe them out, and man, producing that seed is expensive.
But wait, there's a twist, and this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about which parents you pick, especially for synthetics. It's about how you mix them together. The recipe, the method, can make or break the whole thing.
And we've got a perfect example from a maize study. Researchers set up an experiment to answer that very question. Does the technique you use to make a synthetic variety actually matter? And spoiler alert, oh, yeah, it matters a lot.
So here's what they did. They tried 2 different recipes. The first one is called the convergent cross method. It's very precise, very controlled. You make sure that every single parent plant contributes its fair share to the genetic pot. Then there's the random method. This is the easy way out. You basically just throw all the seeds from the parent plants into a bucket, mix them up, plant them, and hope for the best. It's faster, it's cheaper, but is it better?
And the results, they were crystal clear. The easy way, the random method, was a total flop. Why? Well, for one, it actually lost genetic variability. Some of those valuable genes, or alleles, just disappeared from the mix. Also, some parents ended up dominating, while others barely contributed at all. And that hybrid vigor they were banking on? It was way, way lower than they'd hoped. The shortcut completely backfired.
And the scientists' conclusion was basically a giant warning label. They said, look, you have to be really careful with this random method. If your parent plants are very different from each other, just mixing them up can actually cause you to lose the very genetic diversity you were trying to capture. It's a huge risk.
So this all brings us to the final showdown, the breeder's choice. What it all boils down to is this constant push and pull between sheer performance and being able to adapt to the unexpected.
And that's the trade-off right there. It's a fundamental choice. Do you go for the supercharged, engineered performance of a synthetic variety, the one that's going to give you those massive yields but might be a bit fragile? Or do you go for the tough, broad resilience of a composite? It might not win the yield competition, but it can take a punch. There's no one-size-fits-all answer here. It all depends on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do it.
And that's the question I want to leave you with, as we stare down the barrel of a changing climate and a planet that needs more and more food. What do we need more? Raw performance or built-in diversity? The specialist or the generalist? The answer we choose is going to define what farming and our food supply looks like for a very, very long time.